right, good afternoon. My name is Joanna Cohn. I'm the director of the Institute for Global Tobacco Control in the School of Public Health, and we're really excited about our speaker today, Dr. Maciej Goniewicz. Close enough. Dr. Goniewicz comes to us from Roswell Park Cancer Institute in Buffalo, and there he's in the Department of Health Behavior in the Division of Cancer Prevention and Population Sciences. And he has quite a lot of diverse training. He has training in pharmacy, in pharmacology, and in toxicology, and has then, with all that training, went to the University of California in San Francisco to do a fellowship, a postdoctoral fellowship, and worked with folks like Neil Benowitz there, and went on to the UK and to St. Mary's, Queen Mary University, looking at, which specializes in cessation treatment. And he was one of the early people to get interested in e-cigarettes within that sort of context of smoking cessation. So he actually has, I think in looking at your CV, maybe a grant from 2010 around there. So that's like the early days of e-cigarettes, and a lot of people have jumped on the bandwagon since then, but we have a seasoned e-cigarette researcher here, so really excited about that. So he does quite a lot of work around safety and efficacy of electronic nicotine delivery systems, and that includes laboratory evaluation of the products. He does pharmacological and toxicological assessment, does surveys of users, and sort of speaks to them about anecdotes as well, and then also looks at their potential application in harm reduction and smoking cessation. So a lot of people these days are talking about e-cigarettes, and our speaker actually does work on research on e-cigarettes. So we're so excited, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jana. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a big pleasure to be here. I apologize for any mistakes and errors if I make. The English is not my first language. And if you have any questions during my presentation, please ask. And I try to explain some maybe difficult terms and I try to clarify what I'm talking about. So before I start my presentation, I would like to make a disclosure. I received a research grant from a pharmaceutical company. I have no financial relationship with any manufacturers, distributors, or retailers of electronic cigarettes or with tobacco industry. And I will not discuss off-label use of investigational use of any product in my presentation. So the reason we are here and we are talking about electronic cigarettes is that we know that these products are getting more and more popular, and it's in states but also around the world. So awareness, current, and ever use of electronic cigarettes is increasing in many countries in different regulatory environments, in the countries with different smoking prevalence. But this is a global phenomenon. It's not only here, but I came from Poland, where the electronic cigarettes are extremely popular. I was working in UK on the smoking cessation when the electronic cigarettes are very popular. Actually, the most recent data showed that they are more popular as a smoking cessation device than nicotine replacement therapy products like patches, gums. So more smokers are using electronic cigarettes to quit smoking than using gums or patches with nicotine, which are approved and certified products there. So we know that the popularity of the products is increasing. Here in the United States, I think I first heard about the electronic cigarette when I was at my postdoc fellowship at UCSF. So it was like 2008. There was some news showing that, there is a new product on the market. It's called the electronic cigarette. And then the product was there was a lot of media attention and a lot of news about this product, and the internet popularity of the product was increasing and increasing, and the first studies done in 2011, 2010 actually showed that more people were looking for electronic cigarettes on internet resources than were looking for, again, nicotine replacement therapy products. So people, smokers, non-smokers, they were really interested in this new product. So at the very early stage, we were aware that probably this product will stay on the market for a longer time. And what we see right now, the really big popularity of the product is reflecting the early stage of the adoption and in 2010, 2011. So a little bit about the marketing of the products. It has changed. It has changed mostly because of the regulatory implication. And the very beginning, when you look at the first advertisement materials of the electronic cigarettes, these products were strictly marketed to smokers, and there were very many claims about smoking cessation efficacy. So you can find the flyers, you can find the posters, you can find the websites with the claims like these products will help you quit smoking. And the public health advocates and the regulatory advocates say that these are unjustified claims. And if you make the claim that the product is effective as a smoking cessation device, you need to register this product, you need to get approval from FDA for treatment. And so nowadays we don't see this type of advertisement. Very rarely. I saw a few on our websites, but it's not the main message that you can find. The products are marketed to those smokers who want to continue in the places when they are not allowed to smoke. So I think the famous sentence, "Smoke anywhere" or "smoking everywhere." This message is still very strong. But there are advertisements that show that claim that this product is safer, that this is the alternative for the tobacco product. So actually, you don't have to quit. You have to switch to something which is better for you. This message, I think, is really strong, strong communicated. And finally, the marketing, I think that there is a message about the reducing the financial costs, that the cigarettes are getting more and more expensive. These products, there is an initial price that is quite high, but when the smoker became a regular user, the cost of buying nicotine solutions or cartridges, the replacement cartridges for the product, is significantly lower than the pack of cigarettes. So there is a potential way to reducing costs of smoking. The big problem that I need to challenge in my research is the huge variability of the products. So we are using mostly the term e-cigarettes, but many researchers, many public health advocates, and the users are actually using different terms for describe the device that they are using. So there is a more like scientific term, the electronic nicotine delivery devices or systems. The acronym is ENDS. And I like this term because it covers different devices, different types of devices. And I put here some review of the most common types of ENDS. So we got this rechargeable. These are products for like one use. So I mean, you can take a few puffs from this, but you cannot refill this, or you cannot change the cartridge with nicotine in these products. These are very often advertised as the product to try. I know there are some samplings of these products in public places. So this might be the product that can be used as a first product for smokers who just want to try and figure it out. How effective these products can be, or unfortunately for the children who might try to who want to experience with these devices. So these are disposable products. Then we have rechargeable products. So these products you have a battery that you can charge. You can buy either cartridges or nicotine solutions. So you can use these products for many times just by adding the new doses of nicotine. The very popular products right now, especially among the experienced users, so the people who are long-term users of electronic cigarettes, the data currently studies, the population-based studies or surveys among the experienced users showed actually that these people are not using rechargeable or disposable products anymore. They're mostly using the big, more sophisticated products. They are called tank systems, or there is a brand, the original brand called Ego. So they are much bigger. They don't look like cigarettes, more like cigars. They are more heavy, they have stronger batteries, and they have a tank system for like a reservoir for nicotine solution. They are even more sophisticated devices, very often called personal vaporizers. They are much bigger. They have, again, stronger batteries, and as you can see here, they don't look even as a cigar. So these are, excuse me. These are these type of devices. There are some products that imitate the other tobacco products, like e-cigars. We've got an e-pipe on the market. So you see that there is a huge variability among the products, which makes the studies very difficult. Yes?
Are there any systems that don't use batteries but just plug in?
Yes, they are. I mean, you have the whole device with the cable that you cannot disconnect. You can plug it in a USB port, but then it must be connected the whole time. But most of the products and what I see from users, what I hear from users, they are using the battery-powered devices. So the researchers that when we study the electronic cigarettes, we often use the term of the first, second, third, and new generation of the product, which actually reflects the change in the design and performance of the products. So when we are talking about the first generation of the product, so these are the cigarette-like devices. They look like a cigarette. They are small. They are not very heavy, and there are like two different types of disposable products and rechargeable products. So on the left side, you can see these are examples of disposable products. So usually, user takes 100, 150 puffs according to the information provided by manufacturers, and then the product is disposed. And the other products, like these types, you have to charge this product, so you need to disconnect the battery, connect to the charger, and charger can be connected to the computer, to USB port, and you need to replace the cartridges that contains the nicotine. There are different sizes of the product. There are some, they look very similar to cigarette in terms of the size, in terms of the color, so they have like the yellow filter tip, but they are products. They are much longer. They call the users very often call them pen-like styles, so they look like a pen. The second generation of the product, so we mostly are talking about the tank system. So in these products, you can see there is the reservoir for nicotine solution. There are some products of the second generation that also contain the cartridges, but mostly these products are refilled by the user with the nicotine solution. You go to the vape shop, and you know the term vape shop, yes? So the user goes to the vape shop and purchases the small bottles of the nicotine solution and drop by drop refill the product. These products have stronger batteries. They usually produce the more dense vapor, which I will show you. It has a huge implication for the efficacy in nicotine delivery and toxicity, potential toxicity of the products. And the third generation of electronic cigarettes, so these are mostly the personal vaporizers. They come in different shapes and a different design, and very often they have, the user can control the power, can control the temperature inside the device. So there is a switch or dial, or like, as you can hear, the plus minus switches. So the user can manipulate with the product in order to increase the nicotine delivery, the density of the vapor that is produced. So there is some kind of manipulation of these products by the users. These products are also refilled by the users with the e-juices, with the e-liquids. So we've got these different types of the products, different generation of the products, but the principle, how they work, is almost the same in all of the devices. So we have a source of the energy, it's mostly battery. We have a reservoir for nicotine, so it might be the tank, or it might be the cartridge. And so this cartridge holds the nicotine solution. It's not the pure nicotine, it's a nicotine dissolved in some kind of carrier, the solvent for nicotine. And we've got a heating element, so that the nicotine solution must be heated, so there is an increase in the temperature inside. There is a sensor that detects when the user takes a puff, though some of the devices have actually manual switch that the user can activate the heating element by pressing the button. So again, there are the different characteristics of the products, and when we are doing research, when we are asking the users why they use the products, so we see that the pattern of use is there's huge variability in the patterns of use. Some of the users prefer automatic devices. Some users prefer the devices with the manual switch when they can actually activate the device by themselves. Some users, and actually most of the experienced users, prefer the device that they can manipulate with the power switch on a device. So this is the heart of the electronic cigarette. So this is there are different terms. So the people call it atomizer, vaporizer. So this is the heating element. This is the part of electronic cigarette. When you look at the device, you cannot see it. It's inside. But this is the part of the device that can increase the temperature inside and can vaporize the nicotine solution. There are, again, different types, different design. They are usually made with the metal thin wires, which again the first generation of the product was always made with the thin metal wires, which I will show you soon had some implication for potential toxicity of the products. So the user can purchase the cartridges they are already filled with nicotine solution. They are usually labeled with the different descriptors, going with the extra high super high or medium, low, and there are actually products on the market. They are zero nicotine. They do not contain nicotine. There is no like uniform system for labeling these products. So sometimes users need to be aware about the product and manufacturer they use and where they purchase, because I saw some products that will contain 10 milligrams of the nicotine, and one retailer called them medium and the other called them light. So there is some discrepancy in the descriptors here. But I put the most common concentration of the nicotine. This is per 1 milliliter of the solution that is inside the cartridge. And the other source of nicotine are e-liquids, e-juices. These are the most common terms used. And again, they have a different strength. There is a different concentration in the product, going with the really high. I think the highest I've ever seen was 100 milligrams per milliliter, and going to zero. So there is a range of the concentration of nicotine in a solution. And they come in different flavors, starting with the tobacco-like flavor. They sometimes call it Marlboro flavor, Camel flavor, and then like similar to the most popular brands of tobacco cigarettes. But it seems, at least from the public health perspective, that there is some controversies about the flavors that are not characteristic for tobacco, like candy-like, sugar-like, and sometimes like alcohol drink-like. So you can, or coffee. So you can buy cappuccino juice, you can buy strawberry juice, and so there is a huge variability in a product on the market. So a little bit about the chemistry of the e-liquid, of a nicotine solution. So usually these products contain nicotine. As I mentioned before, there are some products that do not contain nicotine. They are usually labeled like zero nicotine products. But usually, most of the products contain nicotine in a different concentration. And there are two most common solvents for the nicotine. The one is propylene glycol. Very often, it's labeled on a packaging as a PG. This is acronym for propylene glycol. The other one is glycerin, mostly of the vegetable origin, so it's called the VG, vegetable glycerin. There is a water, the small amount of the water, and then there are some additives, mostly flavorings, to give the flavor and the taste of the e-liquid. So the solvent for nicotine is very often referred as e-liquid base. So these are the solvents for the nicotine. You cannot put pure nicotine because then the product would be very toxic. So the nicotine is dissolved in a solvent. So the manufacturers very often claim that these solvents are safe, and they are approved and they are labeled as generally recognized are safe. The problem is that the FDA usually classified these compounds based on as additives to foods or cosmetics. So here we have got a situation when the solvents are used for inhalation. And the main concern among the toxicologists is what's going on with the long-term use, with the inhalation of these solvents. And especially, I mentioned before, they are heated before the vapor from electronic cigarettes is generated. So what's going on actually inside the electronic cigarette when the vapor is generated? Both solvents, especially the propylene glycol, is widely used in cosmetics, even in drugs. we have the medicines, we have the, the injections based on the propylene glycol, and in the food, it's very common additive. It is additive to tobacco cigarettes. It is used to maintain the proper moisture of the tobacco leaves. So this is quite common compound. And both propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin are practically odorless and tasteless. So that's why all these flavorings in the products, so to give the flavor to the product. And I think most of us were at least once time at life exposed to the vapor. And these products are used to generate what is called the artificial fog. I don't know if you go to the theaters, if you go for some concerts, or the young people go to the clubs for dancing. So this effect of the artificial fog. So it's exactly the same process that's going on inside an electronic cigarette. You take the propylene glycol, mix it with the water, heat it, and you've got an artificial fog. In electronic cigarette, you're doing the same thing, but you got this artificial smoke called vapor. So the main question when we first started to evaluate the electronic cigarette was, is it really nicotine delivery system? Is it effective device? Can it really deliver nicotine? So we know that there might be nicotine according to the claims made by manufacturers of the products, but can users really get the nicotine? And we know that nicotine is toxic. We know that nicotine is addictive compounds. So it was the first and a principal question. So we did very first study looking at the nicotine content in a vapor and in the product. We did it in Poland when I was working there. We chose the 16 different brands of electronic cigarettes. We had some kind of smoking machine, so we did not use the volunteers. We connected the products to the smoking machine, and we tried to trap the vapor and see whether there is a nicotine in a vapor. So what we found in this study, so yes, that there was a vapor there was a nicotine in a vapor generated from different products, but there is again huge variability among the products in nicotine content, regardless of the labels. So let's make it clear. If we choose the products that are labeled 18 milligrams of nicotine, that they contain 18 milligrams of nicotine, we connect the two different products to the smoking machine. We measure how much nicotine is in the vapor. So in one product, we only found 2 milligrams, while in the other, we found 10 milligrams. So then we thought, okay, so the nicotine content in the product might be the one factor that affects the nicotine delivery from the device, but probably the device itself is the other factor that determines nicotine delivery. And that's why we see this different generation of the products with the different batteries, different dosing systems, because they differ in the efficacy of vaporization of nicotine. Yes, please.
What would be the difference if you take a regular cigarette and do the same experiment?
Yeah. So in this experiment, we did not run tobacco cigarettes, but we compare with the published data, either on the reference cigarettes or the marketed cigarettes, and I provide this information. So we try to estimate the dose. So we thought that 15 puffs would be similar to smoking tobacco cigarette, like the similar behavior. And then we estimated that the dose of nicotine is lower in vapor comparing to tobacco smoke. It was very first study, we done it in 2010. We repeated the study recently in the most modern devices. So we saw again the huge variability among the products, and again the variability in the efficacy of vaporization of the nicotine. So some products were more effective in delivering nicotine to the vapor. The other were had very poor delivery. And we generated the vapor using the protocol. The smoking machine took 300 puffs, and the dose that we measured in the vapor was between 2 milligrams and 15 milligrams of nicotine. And it was not correlated at all with nicotine content in the product. And again, we try to compare with the doses that smokers can get from tobacco cigarettes, and again, we estimated that the doses are lower than smokers get by smoking conventional tobacco cigarettes. And so these studies were done using smoking machines, and we know from the history that studies with the smoking machine not always reflects the doses that the smokers actually can get from the tobacco products. The reason for this is that smokers don't smoke like smoking machine. They modify their puffing behavior. So we use 15 puffs that the users can take 10 or can take 30. So the next step was to look at actually nicotine levels in the blood. So try to estimate the pharmacokinetics of the nicotine from the products. This study was done, the first study I am aware was done with Thomas Eisenberg. And so what they did, they took 16 smokers, and these volunteers were naive to electronic cigarettes, so they never used the electronic cigarettes before. They conducted a randomized crossover trial, so they were asked to use the different electronic cigarettes and smoke their regular cigarette, and they were asked to take only 10 puffs on electronic cigarettes. So what you can see here, these are the results. So these black boxes, this is very typical pharmacokinetic profile from tobacco cigarettes. So this is when they smoke cigarette, the nicotine level in the blood increases very rapidly, and it takes some time. The nicotine is metabolized and is excreted from the body. And then there's another cigarette and another boost of nicotine in the blood, and then it go on with every cigarette the smokers smoke. But then they asked smokers to use electronic cigarettes and also do some shame behavior, shame smoking, like no puffing at all, but just holding devices. And there was almost nothing here. So they did not find significant delivery of nicotine to the blood. So at the very beginning, we thought like, okay, so there is a nicotine in the product, there is a nicotine in the vapor, but for some reason, the nicotine is not delivered to the blood. So maybe it is just the placebo effect. And actually, they showed in the study that among the smokers, just the use of electronic cigarette suppresses the craving for smoking without nicotine delivery. So there was a first sign that just puffing of this device and just holding it, maybe this sensory effect of the vapor might be important for the users because there was no nicotine delivery from these products. But then the next study was published with the experienced users. So the people, the users who used the products for some period of time, and they had their own brand, the favorite brand, and they purchased it on their own. And the users were taken to the lab, and they were also asked to take 10 puffs, and over some period of time, 6 times, and there was a nicotine in the blood. So these devices showed that the users actually can get the nicotine from the device. The nicotine can be delivered from electronic cigarettes. So either it was the function of the device, or more likely it was the experience with the product, which actually I have the most recent data from my study, and it shows that there is, over the time, the users can compensate for the nicotine. So there is a learning curve the learning process of using electronic cigarettes. When you take a naive user, you give the electronic cigarette to them, they try to puff exactly the same as they smoke cigarettes, but later they modify the puffing behavior. But it's also the function of the device. So this is the most recent study showing that when the users use the first generation of the device, the cigarette-like, and then they were asked to use the newer generation of the device, there was a difference in nicotine delivery to the blood. So the different devices can deliver different amounts of nicotine. So now so we know that electronic cigarettes can be effective nicotine delivery devices, but what we wonder is whether they can deliver nicotine, but without any toxicants that we found in a tobacco smoke. It was the principle for developing these devices. And so we had a lot of products on the market before with this harm reduction strategy. So, providing the nicotine to the users and not providing the potentially toxic compounds. And different products, they're not really succeeded, and most of them are not anymore on the market. But this approach of harm reduction has been discussed for a long time. So what about electronic cigarettes? Can they be used as a harm reduction devices? So there are some unique features about this device. The first one is that a lot of toxicants in the tobacco smoke are actually produced when the tobacco is burned. So in electronic cigarettes, we don't have any burning process. So we can eliminate some toxins that are generated by burning tobacco. But the most important thing, there is no tobacco inside. We've got a nicotine that is extracted from tobacco, but it's like purified, it's dissolved in the solvent, but there is no tobacco. So that's why at the very beginning, we assumed that electronic cigarettes are much safer than tobacco cigarettes. And there are some studies looking at the different toxicants in the product. These are studies showing the levels of tobacco-specific nitrosamines as potent carcinogens in solutions from electronic cigarettes. And actually, the studies showed that there might be some traces of nitrosamines in the products. But when you look at the other products, so the levels are significantly lower comparing to tobacco cigarettes, comparing to smokeless tobacco, and even similar what we can find in nicotine replacement therapies, which we consider the most safest nicotine delivery products. The reason for this is that nicotine is taken from the tobacco, and unfortunately there are some contaminants in a tobacco plant. But we did study looking at the vapor. So what's in the vapor? Can vapor expose users to the different chemicals? And yes, we found some potentially dangerous chemicals. Some of them are classified as carcinogens. The carbonyl compounds like formaldehyde, acetaldehyde, acrolein, we found in the different products. Again, there was a huge variability in the products. And again, when we compared the levels, we found in the vapor with the levels reported for tobacco smoke, the levels in electronic cigarettes were significantly lower than in tobacco cigarettes, the smoke from tobacco cigarettes. There was one study reporting the small particles of metals in a vapor. So the different metals were found in a vapor, and the authors concluded that this is probably emission from the heating element, because this part of the electronic cigarette is made by the metals. There was 2 studies so far published on the cytotoxicity of the products. There's new one that was recently presented, but it is not published yet. So the researcher looked at the cell lines, the cell exposed to the vapor from electronic cigarette, and they found that cigarette smoke is more cytotoxic than vapor from electronic cigarette. Some products were cytotoxic, so there was a negative impact on the cells. However, it was not related to nicotine content in the product. And probably it was, they suggested that it was related to the flavorings in the products. So some products, especially with the cinnamon flavor, were more cytotoxic than the others one. So I want to show you, I'm almost at the end, but I want to show you the recent study that it's currently under review, but I want to share with you because I think this is the very important study and the first of this kind. So we look at the 20 cigarette smokers, the regular tobacco cigarette smokers. We provided them with electronic cigarettes for just 2 weeks. We pick up the product that we knew that can deliver nicotine, so the good generation, the newer generation of the product, and a high nicotine content. We asked them to substitute their regular cigarette for 2 weeks and use them ad lib as they want. They were allowed to smoke cigarettes, but we advised them, when you can, please substitute your tobacco cigarette with electronic cigarettes. We could not make a smoking cessation claim because of the regulatory constraint. So we collected the different samples at the baseline, so the day when they're still smoking cigarettes, tobacco cigarettes. So after 1 week of using electronic cigarettes and after 2 weeks of using electronic cigarettes, they provided us with the urine samples, and we could measure the biomarkers of exposure. So this is what we found in the study. So even they were allowed to smoke cigarettes, they significantly reduced over 2 weeks the number of tobacco cigarettes they smoked. But what I found very, very interesting, the pattern of using electronic cigarettes was almost the same as the pattern of smoking. So when you look here, our volunteers usually, on average, smoke 16 cigarettes per day. And when we actually provided them with a small diary and ask them to report every time you use electronic cigarettes. And then when we counted how many times per day they use electronic cigarette, and it was 16. So they try. It looks to me that they try to to really imitate the act of smoking with electronic cigarettes. We verified it with carbon monoxide levels. And the carbon monoxide level went down, so actually what they reported was true. We saw some trend in the decreasing of craving for smoking tobacco cigarette, though it was a small sample size, and it was not powered for this outcome. Because it was powered for biomarkers. So one of the biomarkers we looked for were nitrosamines. These are the one of the most potent carcinogens found in a tobacco smoke. So the nitrosamines are in a tobacco products, and in a body they are metabolized to different compounds. But one of the biomarkers is called NICOTINE. We can measure it in a urine. We can measure it in the blood, and this indicates exposure to the tobacco products. So when you look at the left side. So this is the metabolites of nicotine. It indicates the uptake, the doses of nicotine that they get from the electronic cigarettes. So after 1 week and after 2 weeks, there is no significant difference in nicotine uptake. So they actually get the same amount of nicotine from electronic cigarettes. But what we saw, there was a significant decrease in exposure to nitrosamines after switching to electronic cigarettes. And actually, NNAL is a tricky biomarker because it has a very long half time. So it takes, on average, 2 weeks to eliminate half of the nitrosamines from the body. We look at the different biomarkers, almost like 20 of them, and there was a huge effect on the decreasing of the biomarkers after switching to electronic cigarettes. And I think I will finish here because I want to leave some time for questions. So I think that's. If there's no question, I can continue.
When you say it's used to quit smoking, is this a misnomer in a way? Is it they use electronic cigarette as a switch e-cigarettes to electronic cigarettes, is it the third stage is to quit smoking altogether or to stick with the e-cigarette? In this case, we're really switching, not really quitting.
Yeah.
What's your,
That's a very challenging problem. First of all, it depends on the study outcome. So we were looking at a potential application of the electronic cigarette as a smoking cessation device. So in similar way as we are investigating efficacy of nicotine gum or nicotine patch. So whether users can use these products for quitting, and maybe after some time, quitting also electronic cigarettes. Stay actually, going from tobacco-free and then going to nicotine-free. So, and actually when we do the surveys among the users, they very often clearly say, I used electronic cigarette to quit smoking. Though very often in a literature, there is a term, right now we are using the term switching. So they are still using, this is still tobacco product. So they are switching from one product to the other one. There is a problem with the dual use. So there are some users of electronic cigarettes, they still smoke tobacco cigarette, and they add electronic cigarette to the smoking pattern. So we see this group of the users, they continue smoking and now are using electronic cigarettes in addition to tobacco cigarettes. We call them dual users. There is a problem with the, of course, from public health perspective, with the young people. I have a new data showing that actually there is a group of the young people who initiated use of the electronic cigarettes and progressed to tobacco cigarette smoking. It's really hard to assess what's the risk, what's the likelihood. Is it the smoking is really caused by electronic cigarettes. We need a cohort studies, like PAF studies, the big cohort studies, observational study, controlling for different factors, and see patterns of switching between the products. And I know there is a lot of smokers who tried electronic cigarette, they didn't like the product, it was not effective for them, and they relapse and they continue to smoke. Yes?
Very related to this last comment you made. I understand that in an individual level, it may work as a harm reduction strategy. But in the population level, don't we risk renormalizing smoking, especially in closed places if there are no regulations?
Yes. I agree that this is the concern about electronic cigarettes, and a lot of scientists are raising this problem of renormalizing smoking, and there is a risk. There is a risk. My research is what I present here is more focused on the individual users. But I think we should look at the whole picture. They probably, there's very likely that these products are beneficial for the smokers. So if the smokers succeed and switch to electronic cigarettes, this product is less harmful and probably will be beneficial. But then we have a risk of uptake among the young people, among the non-users, non-smokers, and what's going on with this group. So this is some kind of balance between the risk and benefits of the products, and it's really challenging. And I think like regulation of the product is very challenging, how to address these two different stories. And, any other questions?
Well, maybe tell us about who uses cigarettes.
So very briefly, so we've got a lot of surveys, they're looking at the users. These studies have a limitation because this is like a self-selected group. These people are very enthusiastic about the product. They just love the product. When I see the long-term users in my lab, they are very enthusiastic about the products. But actually, all of them were former smokers, and this is not verified I did not. This is not study designed for looking at the switching between the products, but the participants I see in my cross-sectional study right now, we are investigating long-term effects of using electronic cigarettes. So we are looking for the people who are using electronic cigarettes for a long time, and all of them say, "Oh, I was a smoker when I started using electronic cigarettes," and many of them reported many failures in quitting smoking. So they say, "Oh, I tried gums, I tried patches, I tried varenicline, and I was still smoking. And finally, I'm smoke-free." So I see the potential in the product as a smoking cessation device. Of course, it needs to be verified in randomized controlled trials, but at least there is a group, for sure, there is a group of smokers who quitted with electronic cigarettes. Yes?
Some people that work in clinics to try and help people quit make the argument that we've had inhalers, nicotine inhalers, that have gone through drug trials and they are sort of approved as a clinical medical approach. Why do you think smokers would prefer, by and large, to use e-cigarettes versus a prescription for an inhaler?
I think there might be few reasons. I think the one reason is nicotine delivery. It's much higher from electronic cigarettes. The doses are higher, they're more effective. What we see right now, they are very close to the doses that the smokers received from tobacco smoke. The other reasons might be the sensory aspect. A lot of smokers reported they like the inhaler because they can hold it, but there was no smoke, no vape. So probably this might be an important factor. The users also very often use the term what is called the throat heat. So they say, they can really feel the vapor in the throat. The sensory aspect of the vapor might be important, at least for some of the electronic cigarette users. I don't know what's the effect of these flavorings. Is it something that is important for outcome of the studies? We don't know that yet.
And I wondered too about, you talked about the propylene glycol and sort of the intentional creation of the vape. And it seems to me that a lot of the benefit there is to advertise that someone's using it. To what extent is that sort of necessary to create that vape from the chemosensory experience of the user? And from a product regulation, would be better off requiring them to not have a visible vapor?
So the main problem is that nicotine needs some kind of vehiculum, that can deliver the nicotine to the lungs. So for tobacco smoke, it's very effective because of the particle size. They can penetrate the lungs very deeply, and they can be deposited in the lungs. So the nicotine absorption from the lung is very effective. So if we don't have this effect of the droplets of the aerosol that can be deposited in the lung, can be inhaled to the lung, and nicotine can be absorbed, then we might challenge the problem of nicotine delivery. There might be some absorption from the buccal mucosa, but it's not such effective as from lungs. And the pharmacokinetics, this rapid increase in the blood of nicotine is mostly from that lung delivery. Yes?
Do you have any information about dermal exposure? You were saying that earlier forms had a cartridge that you put in, so you would imagine that would be a little bit safer. But if there's like liquid nicotine being put into a vessel, then maybe they're going to get some on their hands or it spills or something like that. Do you have any information about that?
Yes, you are right. There is this concern of the toxicity of these products and toxicity of the nicotine in the product. So the one, the CDC reported this increasing number of the phone calls to the poison centers associated with the electronic cigarettes and e-liquids. So yes, there is a risk that when you have the nicotine solution spilled on your skin, the nicotine can be absorbed from the skin. The risk of overdosing nicotine from the inhalation of this device, I see it's very little. It's very negligible. There is the self-regulation of the puffing behavior, and I've never seen the cigarette smoker who overdosed nicotine from cigarettes, and I never saw the user of electronic cigarette who overdosed. But there is a risk that the nicotine is toxic, and for the children, the concerns about them drinking this e-juice, how dangerous it is. This is the different problem, But there is a risk. There is a risk. There's a question: how can we minimize the risk? Putting the nicotine solution in the proper containers, the proper packaging, warning labels, the storage indication for these products. I think is very crucial here. When the nicotine is when somebody drinks the e-liquid, he or she will probably first experience this reaction on the nicotine. So usually it's vomiting and nausea and a headache. So we have, the human body human body system has this kind of protection. So actually the dose that can be effectively transmitted to the blood system and can have any potential pharmacological effect is lower than what is ingested. But there is a risk of ingestion of these products. Yeah. And what about the flavorings? If they smell nice and the kids smell these products, but again, I believe this is like we need to find a way to balance between the risk and the potential benefits, and I don't have a clue how to do this, but I think we need to study this. We need to provide the regulators with the scientific evidence, which approach is the best. Even if we can minimize the risk here, but it might have the negative effect on the smokers who otherwise would switch to the product. So it needs to be balanced.
Thank you so much.
Oh, there's not too much chemistry.
No, I think that it was just super to give us a full idea of what these products are, because I think, the media sort of glosses over and it's hard to understand all the intricacies and impacts on nicotine delivery and toxicity. So really, thank you so much for sharing your data with us. So thanks again. And I'll just say, for those of you who are interested in hearing more about e-cigarettes, the Department of Health, Behavior, and Society is having a symposium on Friday. I don't see them all, but I'm pretty sure we're located here at 1 o'clock, and so it'll be all faculty members in the department speaking, David Abrams, Ryan Kennedy, Carl Latkin, Kate Smith, and myself. So that starts at 1 here. So I hope to see many of you then as well. So thank you.